They hovered above a dying star, the Galactic Council, apex predators of known space, each seated in a throne carved from an enemy's bones or forged from extinct planetary cores. They called it the Auraxium Chamber, where stars bent to their will and entire species were condemned with a flick of jewel fingers. 8 to 7 delegates. 40 species. No humans. Earth's chair sat empty. A sliver of silence passed. Then laughter cracked through the void like plasma fire. It started with a Volth Syndic, his neural filaments twitching. I've seen swamp algae with more strategic intelligence than this. Earth! The Zelnari queen clattered her mandibles, her translucent skull shimmering. They don't even terraform. They wage war over invisible skylines. The Karnari High Lord rose, armor ringing like chimes of war. Silence. What is Earth's response to the Council's Dominion claim? A low-ranking clock construct, organic only from the neck down, floated forward, feeding data into the holopanel. The chamber dimmed as Earth's file flickered into view. A rotating sphere of blue and green, followed by a stream of intercepted transmissions. Meme sounds. Metal riffs. A goat screaming. Gunfire laid under fireworks. Strange, chaotic noise. Is this a threat? The Zelnari hissed, recoiling. No, the Volth laughed. It's confusion. Their response is nothing, spat the Karnari general. They send us noise and delay. No envoy. No acknowledgement of our expansion protocols. Cowards, muttered a delegate. Fools, growled another. The youngest delegate, a sharp-eyed analyst from the Hellary archives, leaned forward. We shouldn't ignore the Earth silence. It may be intentional. The Zelnari queen dismissed her with a hiss. Silence is a language of prey. The holopanel surged again. New file. Encrypted. Strange metadata. No traceable point of origin. Everyone sat up. The file opened. It was grainy footage, too analog for modern tech. No sound. A camera lens, weathered and cracked, set at ground level on some airless moon. The feed shook slightly. Then, a shape moved across the screen. A man, black combat armor, no insignia, no division tags, no visible weapons, just a slow walk through dust and silence. The camera auto-tracked him. No heat signature, no biometric ID. He passed right through the lens's focal plane, and for a brief second, the world froze. On his chest, scorched into armor, 3 words. Project Boogeyman. No face. No voice. Just that name. Just a walk. Silence again. Then the laughter exploded. This time, the council howled. A Zelnari lieutenant rolled off his perch, clutching his gut. They named him after a children's tale. They are mocking us, barked the Volth Syndic. It's theater. Boogeyman. What does it even mean? The Karnari High Lord smashed his clawed fist against the floor. They mock our authority. They send no diplomat, but they send this phantom. Enough! Another delegate chimed in, dripping venom. Earth is all stories and superstition. They think they can intimidate the galaxy with myth. But not everyone laughed. High Commander Varshan, an old Karnari warlord with half his skull replaced by a warframe interface, leaned closer to the footage. His eye twitched. Pause it. The image froze, the figure mid-step, gaze locked on nothing, expression unreadable behind a black visor. Behind him, a trail of ash and scorched ground. Barely visible. But it was there. Enhance, Varshan commanded. The clock did. In the dust, patterns emerged, circular burns where boots had landed. Each step chemically reactive. The kind of thermite patterning designed for message transmission. Military tech from over a century ago. Varshan decoded it instantly. His warframe translated the thermite burns into text. 3 lines. I am real. I don't run. I'm coming. His blood chilled. He stood abruptly. This is not theater, he growled. More laughter. Old fool, snapped the delegate. You see war where there's only noise. But Varshan wasn't looking at them. He was looking past them, at something only he felt. A weight in the room. Like oxygen had vanished and gravity had thickened. Like something ancient was awakening just behind the curtain of space. They didn't send a man, he said quietly. They unleash one. The lights above them flickered. Momentary blackout. A blip. The clock construct froze midair. Its holocore fizzed and died. Something had breached the encryption. Without authorization. Shut the system down. Someone barked. Too late. A new video forced itself onto every screen in the chamber. This time, live footage. Outside their station. One ship. Small. Obsolete. Not even a destroyer class. Black hull. No visible weapons. No signature, muttered the Hellary analyst, voice trembling. No transponder. It's using a human analog stealth frequency. Impossible, the Karnari general hissed. The ship turned toward them. Engines dead silent. It shouldn't have been able to reach the Council's orbital chamber undetected. Their location was classified beyond Tier 0 clearance. Their defense perimeter was fortified with orbital mines, kill satellites, AI-controlled rail cannons. None had triggered. None had fired, because nothing had seen it coming. It drifted closer, like a ghost ship through a graveyard. Varshan stepped back. Activate all defenses. Now. Systems flared to life. Targeting beams locked on. Turrets rotated. Mines armed. The ship stopped. Silent. Dead. Empty. Then a transmission came through. No encryption. No voice. No warning. Just a timer. 5 o'clock. The room fell silent. What is that? Someone whispered. The timer ticked down. 4:59. 4:58. 4:57. EMP, asked the fourth officer. No, it's too localized. 4:39. Is it broadcasting a virus? Maybe it's a countdown to a message. 4:10. Then the hull of the ship opened. No sound. No light. Just a shadow. He stepped out. Boots hit the void. He walked without propulsion. No thrusters. No chute wings. Nothing. Just a man. A silhouette. Moving. Straight toward them. Toward the heart of galactic civilization. Varshan reached for his blade. We're not looking at a soldier, he whispered. The Hellary analyst, pale and shaking, nodded. He's not human anymore. Then what is he? Someone choked out. No one answered, because everyone in that chamber already felt it. In the pit of their stomachs. Behind their eyes. It was the oldest fear in the universe. The Boogeyman was real, and he was already inside. 3 o'clock. 2:59. Time was over. The chamber shook. Not from an explosion. Worse, it was the absence of one. A sudden vacuum of sound. Like the universe itself had taken a breath and held it. The timer vanished from the screen. Not 0. Just gone. Like it had never existed. Silence reigned. Then the doors, 3-meter-thick slabs of neutronium alloy, caved inward without a sound. Not melted. Not cut. Crushed. Smoke rolled into the chamber. It moved like something alive, coiling in tendrils, lapping at the floor as if tasting it. The lights flickered, then failed completely. Emergency lumens kicked in, casting the entire council in a dim red glow. Something stepped into the smoke. Something that wasn't supposed to exist. He moved slow, deliberate. Not out of caution, but confidence. The smoke parted around him like it feared to cling. Combat armor matte black, edges scarred from wars never recorded. His visor gleamed red for a split second before going black again. No HUD flicker. No identification. Only the gleam of a serrated blade strapped tight to his thigh, and the glint of a name etched across his chest. Boogeyman. A Zelnari guard panicked. Fired. The railgun flash lit the room for a second, enough for every eye to see the projectile scream toward the figure, then bend. Yes, bend. The slug twisted midair and carved into the wall behind him as if something had gripped it and changed its path. Physics screamed. Logic died. The Boogeyman didn't flinch. He moved. Not fast. Not sprinting. He walked, and somehow crossed 20 meters in one breath. The guard didn't even have time to drop his weapon before the blade ripped up under his chin, out the crown of his skull. There was no scream. Just a wet SHKKT as bone split and nerve fluid sprayed across the floor. The Boogeyman dropped the corpse. Took the railgun in one smooth motion. Turned. The next guard barely got their mouth open. The gun didn't fire. He threw it. It hit the guard so hard their head separated from the spine. Not broke, separated. The body crumpled. The head bounced twice and stopped at a Karnari diplomat's feet. Chaos erupted. The chamber screamed alive. Karnari soldiers, Vorth syndics, even Hellary diplomats, all drawing weapons, activating defense drones, screaming for lockdown. Too late. He was already among them. A drone hovered in, twin plasma cannons aimed. He caught it by the barrel, with one hand, and crushed it like a tin can. The implosion lit his visor again. That flash of red, not technology. Rage. Contained. Cold. Focused like a scalpel. A Vorth delegate, plated in body armor, armed with kinetic blade, lunged. He didn't dodge. He stepped into the strike, caught the arm mid-swing, snapped the elbow backward, and jammed the broken limb through the Vorth's own chest. The alien spasmed once, blinked, and dropped. "Seal the chamber," someone screamed. The doors were already fused shut, welded by some unseen force. No heat signature. No breach. Just locked. Like the room itself had decided escape was no longer possible. Another Karnari warrior sprinted in, battle axe raised. He ducked under it, spun behind, grabbed the alien by the jaw, and ripped. It came off in one wet, explosive tear. He tossed the severed lower face onto the floor and kept moving. His steps were methodical, measured, each one another heartbeat lost. One of the Vorth syndics activated a personal shield, maximum wattage, designed to repel tank-busting rounds. Boogeyman walked straight through it, not around, through. The field flickered, screamed, then shattered with a sound like breaking glass inside the skull. The Vorth tried to run. He grabbed the alien's neck and slammed him down with such force the floor cracked beneath the impact. The Boogeyman didn't look back. He was already moving to the next. A Karnari highborn tried to plead. "We didn't know. Please, stop, we..." The blade answered. Quick, clean, through the mouth, out the skull. Words didn't matter here. Apologies didn't matter. Mercy never came. Boogeyman was not human anymore. He was purpose. A Zelnari female, armored in crystalline plates, fired 6 high-speed plasma bolts. All 6 hit. They sizzled against his armor. Didn't even leave a mark. He tilted his head. She screamed, turned to run. He moved faster than a scream. She dropped, her neck twisted 180 degrees, mouth still open. The carnage grew. Blood splattered across marble. Alien organs slithered over seats once meant for galactic royalty. The air choked with ozone, smoke, and the thick copper scent of death. And still, he moved. 2 Vorth shock troopers flanked him. He disarmed the first with a twist, breaking fingers backward until the bones tore skin. As the second moved in, he head-butted him, shattering the helmet and the skull beneath it. The first tried to cool away. The blade slid into the back of its skull. No words, no hesitation. Boogeyman turned to the main dais, where the top 6 delegates were trying to summon evacuation ships, override security, call for planetary backup. All systems blinked, access denied. He was already in the system. Had been for hours. The Hellary analyst stared at him. She didn't move, didn't blink, just whispered, "He's not a man." He looked at her, just for a second. Didn't kill her. Not yet. Instead, he walked past her and toward the High Council throne. Massive, gold-trimmed, elevated 5 meters above the floor. 3 Karnari guards stepped in. Trained elites. Didn't matter. The first fell with his spine folded. The second tried to draw a pulse saber and got his head split before it ignited. The third, Boogeyman caught the saber mid-swing, held it, let it burn through his palm, and then shoved it into the guard's chest. Even the blade protested. It hissed, fizzed, snapped. He pulled it out and tossed it aside like scrap. Now he was face to face with the Karnari High Lord. The leader raised his hand. "Stop." That was all. The blade went through his throat. He didn't die instantly. Boogeyman twisted the blade as he lifted him off the throne, letting the weight of the alien's body tear its own windpipe, then dropped the corpse onto the seat. The Boogeyman stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by blood, bone, fire, silence. He didn't breathe hard. He hadn't even broken rhythm. He activated the Council's holofeed, linked to every planet, every system, every race. A signal reserved for galactic emergencies. He looked into the camera. Still silent, still masked. Then he reached down and pulled something from the corpse of the Karnari leader, a seal, the royal insignia of the Galactic Council. He held it up for all to see, and dropped it, crushed it under one boot. Then finally spoke. One sentence. One voice, calm and American. This is what happens when you laugh at Earth. And then he vanished into the smoke. Just like the myths always said, blood soaked the council floor. It pooled beneath thrones built by tyrants, soaked into flags of dominion, and ran in slow rivers down stays carved from extinct planets. The chamber, a monument to power, had become a tomb. The Boogeyman stood alone in the center, unmoving, surrounded by corpses and smoke. His visor reflected the flames of shattered tech. The shattered broadcast had already gone live, across all known frequencies. Billions across the galaxy had watched him crush the insignia of the Galactic Council beneath his boot like it was ash. The feed had ended only a minute ago, but its echo would last forever. Across 1,000 worlds, civilians had frozen. Soldiers had panicked. Governments had screamed orders into dead channels. And somewhere, on Earth, in a concrete room buried beneath 3 mountains of steel and secrecy, a general had leaned back in his chair and smiled. But hey, at the center of the galaxy's ruling body, there was only fear. One last Karnari noble tried to crawl toward the exit. His legs were gone. Blood poured from his waist as he dragged himself inch by inch, whispering something in his native tongue, a prayer or curse, maybe both. The Boogeyman walked toward him, slow and steady. The alien reached up with a trembling claw, a desperate gesture of mercy. Boogeyman crouched beside him. They locked eyes. The Karnari's lower lip quivered. Why? The Boogeyman stared at him, then spoke. Because you forgot what Earth was made of. The knife slid across the noble's throat with surgical precision, silent, merciless. Not rage, not vengeance, correction. He rose again. A few diplomats remained alive, paralyzed by fear or hiding behind shattered consoles. One of them, a Voth interpreter, whimpered in his seat. Boogeyman didn't go to him. He didn't have to. The man shook so violently he passed out on his own, urine staining his robes. From somewhere beneath the floor, alarms started to wail. Not defense alarms, containment. Systems triggered not by external attack, but by breach of the most sacred protocols. Someone was overriding the fail-safes. Deep below the chamber, a bunker opened, and from it, they came, automated death machines, biosynth elites. The Council's last fail-safe, the HFY on guard. 20 armored figures, 7 feet tall, each with spinal enhancements and neural targeting relays that process faster than light. Clad in red and chrome exosuits, they emerged like walking executions. Their rifles, shoulder-mounted, AI-assisted, locked onto the lone human before any verbal command passed. Their leader, Unit 1, stepped forward. Stand down, it ordered. Boogeyman didn't move. This facility is under Council lockdown. You will be executed. Still, no movement. Unit 1 blinked its third eye, a targeting module. Fire. 20 streams of plasma detonated forward. They didn't miss. They couldn't miss. But he was already gone. Not vanished. Not teleported. Just moved. Too fast to follow. A Hell Ion fell first, its head crushed inward like a kicked can. Another's arm tore clean off, weapon still firing wildly as it spun away. Then the third fell backward, neck broken at an angle that screamed human hands did this. Chaos exploded. Boogeyman didn't fight like a man. He fought like contagion, spreading across the formation, cutting through them with perfect precision. One strike per kill. No wasted motion. No time between. A Hell Ion managed to fire point blank. The shot hit. Boogeyman staggered. But then he straightened. Smoke curled off his armor. Beneath it, something shimmered. Regeneration mesh. Impossible tech. Earth tech. He drove a blade through the Helion's eye socket, twisted until sparks sprayed from its spine, and shoved the corpse into 2 more charging from behind. Unit 1 screamed a kill code. All units linked into a tactical chain. They tried to box him in. They failed. He let them move, then dropped a pulse mine in their path. The explosion didn't kill them. It blinded them, just for a second, long enough. When the flash cleared, he was crouched atop one of their shoulders, driving both knives into its back. It screamed, then went still. Now only 2 Hellions remained. Unit 1 and the last survivor. Boogeyman walked toward them slowly, his armor scorched, knives dripping synthetic oil and alien blood. Unit 1 hesitated, then dropped its weapon, activated melee mode, its fist lit with internal charge. It lunged. Boogeyman ducked under the first punch, caught the second, redirected it into the last Hellion, and crushed its skull against the floor. Then he turned to Unit 1. They clashed. Metal slammed against metal. Sparks lit the room like lightning. Unit 1 was faster, stronger, heavier. But Boogeyman moved like inevitability, never retreating, never hesitating. He took hits. He let them come. And then he found his opening. He screamed. Not loud, not rage, just enough, like a war cry burned at subsonic pitch. It confused the AI for half a second. Long enough. He drove his blade through Unit 1's chest, twisted, ripped it out, then stabbed again, this time through the eye. Unit 1 froze. Error. The head detached cleanly as Boogeyman kicked it off the body. Silence returned. The Council's last guards were dead. The chamber was now a grave. Smoke curled. Sparks fell like slow rain. Boogeyman walked back toward the central dais. He reached into his armor, pulled something out. Not a bomb. A device. Earth tech. Obsidian casing. Red core. A small insignia on its surface. A triangle inside a circle. Inside that, a skull. He placed it on the table. Pressed one button. All across the Council station, every broadcast reactivated. Once again, the galaxy watched. Boogeyman stood center screen. No speech. No fanfare. Just one motion. He pressed his thumb to the device. The red core lit. Upload complete. And with it, a whisper. A signal. To Earth. To the others. Then he said the last words anyone would hear that night. This wasn't revenge. This was the opening act. The screen cut. The lights died. The Council was gone. The galaxy had laughed at Earth. Now it held its breath. Darkness ruled what once ruled the galaxy. The Council station drifted in dead silence, cloaked by its own shame and smoke. Corpses lay in heaps, heatless, eyeless, soaked in the thick metallic stink of failure. The floor no longer reflected light. It absorbed it. Burned carbon etched the name Boogeyman into the polished black marble. The chamber's once pristine banners of peace, diplomacy, and dominance were shredded, splattered, and pinned beneath shattered bodies. No alarms rang now. No systems beeped. The silence was no longer technical. It was psychological. Across 1,000 worlds, trillions had watched him. Some had wept. Others had cheered. But most had simply stayed, unable to comprehend that one man had just erased the most powerful governing body in the known universe. Not with fleets. Not with diplomacy. Not even with an army. Just with himself. But in the Council's deepest chamber, behind 20 levels of bio-locked doors and biometric firewalls, 5 figures still lived. The inner core. Not politicians. Not delegates. Architects. The ones who never showed their faces. The ones whose names were not recorded, whose voices were filtered through AI masks, whose orders were implemented through layers of bureaucracy so thick no one ever traced anything back. They hadn't run. They hadn't screamed. They had gone cold. And now they were calculating. One of them, code-named Omega, turned to the wall. Show me footage from entry time code 1 second. A projection shimmered, the moment he stepped through the first breach. They watched it again, in slow motion, frame by frame. No one spoke. No one could. Another, Theta, whispered. He didn't hesitate. Not once. Delta leaned forward. What if that wasn't the real him? The room fell even colder. Epsilon shook his head. The records match. Retinal trace. Neural architecture. Combat signature. That's Malcolm Wren. They stared at the data floating above them. Classified Earth files never meant to be accessed by off-world systems. Project Revenant. Subject, Malcolm Wren. Status, deceased, Twice. Clearance, terminal black. Condition, unstable. Uncontainable. Do not engage. The phrase pulse read, and below it, in tiny text, if this entity ever reactivates without orders, Prey is not angry. They had ignored the warning. They had laughed. And Earth had sent its last myth to remind them what fear was made of. His not staying on the station, Omega muttered. No one asked how he knew. They all knew. Boogeyman wasn't a conqueror. He wasn't there to hold territory, to declare dominion, to make speeches or hang banners. He had a different kind of mission. Something older. Punishment. Theta turned. Initiate code Blackfall. Disengage planetary lines. Jam interstellar relays. We vanish. Omega didn't move. Won't matter. What do you mean? He doesn't need a signal to find us. How? How would he? His not hunting information. His hunting intentions. They looked at each other, and suddenly they understood. Boogeyman wasn't targeting locations. He was targeting guilt. Anyone who had signed the Dominion Order against Earth. Anyone who voted to treat humanity like a joke. Anyone who laughed. A whisper broke the room's stillness. I laughed. They all turned to Delta. He was pale, eyes unfocused, breathing shallow. I laughed when we saw the feed. When they showed us that file, him walking on that moon, I called it propaganda. I said humans always fake threats. I said he wasn't real. Silence. I laughed. He repeated, more quietly. No one reached for him. No one comforted him. Because every person in that room, every architect, had laughed. And now, he was coming for them. The lights dimmed, not from failure, but from choice. A soft click echoed behind them. Not a door. A boot. Just one. Then another. Omega turned first, but too slowly. The door to their chamber hadn't opened. There was no entrance behind them. But he was there, standing in the room, inside the impossible, inside the walls that no one could access, hidden beneath encryption protocols that required 7 forms of living DNA to even view. The Boogeyman was inside, no weapons in hand, just blood on his boots, smoke curling from his shoulders, and silence bleeding from his presence. Epsilon stepped forward, hands raised. We were never on the floor. We never lifted a weapon against you. We gave no orders. We were... Boogeyman tilted his head. The visor gleamed once. Red. I laughed. Epsilon whispered. Boogeyman stepped forward. Wait, Theta said, shaking. There's value in us. We can make it right. We can give Earth. The blade flashed. Theta's throat opened sideways. No sound came out. He fell forward, blood spraying the desk. The room descended into hysteria. Omega pulled a shock pistol from his coat and fired. The round stopped inches from the Boogeyman's visor. Mid-air. Frozen. With a twitch of his fingers, Boogeyman turned around. Reversed it. Sent it straight back through Omega's skull. Delta tried to run. He didn't even reach the door before the combat knife sank into his spine. He hit the floor twitching, face first. Boogeyman walked over, pulled the blade out without looking, and kept walking. Only Epsilon remained. He dropped to his knees. Hands up. I'll give you names. He gasped. Codes. Hidden data. I know where they keep the silos on CERN Prime. I can open Vault 9. Just please, don't. The Boogeyman didn't even strike. He just stayed. And Epsilon's heart stopped. Literally. A clean, clinical failure. As if some part of him decided it was over. Boogeyman stepped over the body and walked to the central terminal. He plugged in a small black cube, smooth, featureless, humming with low subsonic code. The screens lit up, the files decrypted, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy's darkest secrets flowed outward. War crimes, buried betrayals, slave systems hidden beneath luxury colonies, mass extinction cover-ups, secret labs experimenting on Earth children abducted during early contact. Everything. Leaked. Uploaded. Broadcasted. The Boogeyman didn't speak. He just stood there, the galaxy sins pouring out behind him like a tidal wave. Then, after the final file uploaded, he reached up and removed his helmet. The feed still ran. Every screen across the stars showed his face. Scars like lightning, eyes like dying suns, expression calm, cold, tired, but unmistakably human. He looked directly into the camera and spoke 4 words. Nothing else. We warned you first. Then the screen cut, and the galaxy broke. Stars died in silence. The council was gone. Not crippled, not shaken. Gone. What had taken 10,000 years to build, what had ruled over galaxies with the arrogance of gods, had been erased by a single human in less time than it took most species to convene a trade vote. Their seats were empty, their ships adrift, their symbols shattered. And at the heart of it, burning brighter than vengeance, stood a name no longer whispered in fear but spoken aloud in reverence, terror, and disbelief. Boogeyman. Across systems, panic wasn't a reaction. It was a chain reaction. On Evos 9, fleets activated emergency protocols and aimed cannons inward toward their own capital, in fear that he might already be there. On Eltheria, priest queens ordered mass evacuations, declaring a silent war with shadows. On Veltor, the Vorth Syndicate self-destructed their AI archives before they could be breached, choosing extinction over exposure. But Earth remained quiet. No official statement, no speech, no parade, only a single transmission, barely audible, cloaked in low-bandwidth analog code, drifting into the galactic mainframe from an old Cold War satellite still orbiting the moon. One voice, no encryption, just a man, speaking plainly. The Boogeyman doesn't take orders. He remembers. Then silence again, and the silence burned more than any warship could. In the aftermath, factions rose like parasites over corpses. Former allies of the Council tried to consolidate power, each claiming innocence, each denying their laughter, each pretending they hadn't cheered when Oath was mocked. But it was too late, because he had mocked them, and no one knew how. Not how he traveled without ships, not how he broke into locked fortresses, bypassed codes, walked through vacuum, or survived orbital burns. Some said he had a dead Earth god living inside him. Others said he had no soul left, just purpose. Some believed he was long dead, and the one who walked now was his memory-given flesh. Didn't matter, because the dead don't need explanations. They need closure. It began slowly, quietly, system by system. On the moons of Varnis, the governor's mansion fell silent mid-transmission. When emergency teams breached the building, they found all 24 cabinet members seated at their table, hands folded, eyes open, no signs of trauma, no sign of him. On Silurin, a cargo hauler carrying weapons-grade quantum cores vanished from a protected fleet convoy. Hours later, the convoy's lead ship, captained by a council sympathizer, was found melted from the inside out. No scorch marks, just heat, measured, controlled, surgical. Then CERN Prime, the Volt planet, the most secure military facility in the quadrant, guarded by AI deities, defended by anti-gravity kill grids, and sealed beneath 30 layers of planet-cracking metal. The core reactor shut down for 9 seconds. 9. When systems rebooted, every living soul in the vault was gone. Not dead, gone. And etched into the reactor's final internal diagnostic entry were 4 words. You laugh the hardest. Governments begged Earth to intervene. Silence. Armies were mobilized, trained to fight a shadow they couldn't trace. Didn't matter. The Boogeyman wasn't coming for a war. He was coming for a reckoning. Those who mocked Earth died quietly. Those who ordered it mocked died slower. And those who profited, they were saved for last. Galactic news feeds turned black. Holo markets crashed. Entire planets shut down their networks just to avoid being found. It didn't help, because he didn't need signals. He didn't need sound. He just needed regret. And regret echoed louder than any beacon. The final known broadcast from the remaining council remnants came from a private moon called Velcrine, off-grid, hidden, deep beneath the crust of a mining colony. A single transmission. A man, trembling, drenched in blood, whispering into a cracked lens. We gave the order. Yes, we laughed. We thought they were weak. We thought humans were just noise in the void. Behind him, something moved. Quiet, Shadowed, the man turned to look. His scream was short. The feed ended. No one dared investigate. And then he vanished again. No sightings. No deaths. Nothing. The galaxy held its breath, waiting. But the waiting hurt worse than the killing, because he hadn't said it was over, because there was still guilt left out there, and because myths don't die after the killing stops. They live on in the space between. So when the capital planet of the former council, Zereth Prime, received a signal 3 weeks later, every eye turned. The signal was clean. No virus. No override. Just a simple video. Black screen. Then a face. His. Malcolm Wren. The Boogeyman. No armor. No mask. Just a man with tired eyes and war in his bones. He stared straight into the feed. And he spoke. You forgot the first rule about Earth. We don't care how big your fleets are. We don't care how many systems you've ruled. We don't care about your history, your bloodlines, your empires, your weapons. Because when you came for us, when you laughed, you made one mistake. You didn't check under your bed. He leaned forward, eyes black as collapsed stars, voice cold as vacuum. Now sleep. The screen cut, and across the galaxy, without cause, without transmission, without force, the lights went out. Every system, every capital, every defense grid. Darkness fell. Not forever, just long enough for them to remember that somewhere out there was a man with no allegiance, no master, no mercy. And when Earth is mocked, when silence is seen as weakness, when laughter rises at the edge of humanity's name, he walks again, not for vengeance, not for pride, just to remind the stars what nightmares look like. And his name is the last thing you'll ever say. Boogeyman. The myth was real, and the galaxy would never laugh again.